Everybody hates Billy Pilgrim. Listen, on the 10th night, the peg was pulled out of the hasp on Billy's boxcar door, and the door was opened. So it goes. Everybody hates Billy Pilgrim except the hobo, but he died. So it goes. Listen, on the 10th night, the peg was pulled out of the hasp on Billy's boxcar door, and the door was opened. Billy Pilgrim was lying at an angle on the corner brace, self-crucified, holding himself there with a blue and ivory claw hooked over the sill of the ventilator. Billy coughed when the door was opened, and when he coughed, he shit thin gruel. This was in accordance with the third law of motion, according to Sir Isaac Newton. This law tells us that for every action, there is a reaction, which is equal and opposite in direction. This can be useful in rocketry. Just shitting yourself according to Newton's third law, which is also useful in rocketry. Did he really cough and shit, my friend asked? Yes, he really did. So if you ever feel like you're having a bad day, just remember you've never shat your pants in front of Nazis. And not just shat, like as in fear, just like uncontrollable diarrhea. You can be as brave as you want to be. But you also have diarrhea. Okay, I can't read chat during this part. Okay. He just like me for real. Sorry. Anyways, fucking World War II prisoner of war prison camp time. The train had arrived on a siding by a prison, which was originally constructed as an extermination camp for Russian prisoners of war. The guards peeked inside Billy's car, owlishly, cooed calmingly. They had never dealt with Americans before, but they surely understood this general sort of freight. They knew that it was essentially a liquid, which could be induced to flow slowly towards cooing and light. It was nighttime. The only light outside came from a single bulb, which hung from a pole, high and far away. All was quiet outside, except for the guards, who cooed like doves, and the liquid began to flow. Gobs of it built up in the doorway, plopped to the ground. Billy was the next to last human. Billy was the next to last human being to reach the door. The hobo was last. The hobo could not flow, could not plop. Burn. He wasn't liquid anymore. He was stone. So it goes. Okay, but he was dead though. Billy didn't want to drop from the car to the ground. He sincerely believed that he would shatter like glass. So the guards helped him down, cooing still. They set him down facing the train. It was such a dinky train now. There was a locomotive, a tender, and 3 little boxcars. The last boxcar was the railroad guards, heaven on wheels. Again, in that heaven on wheels, the table was set. Dinner was served. At the base of the pole from which the light bulb hung were 3 seeming haystacks. The Americans were wheedled and teased over to these 3 stacks, which weren't hay after all. They were overcoats taken from prisoners who were dead. So it goes. It was the guards' firmly expressed wish that every American without an overcoat should take one. The coats were cemented together with ice, so the guards used their bayonets as ice picks, pricking free collars and hems and sleeves and so on, then peeling off coats and handing them out at random. The coats were stiff and dome-shaped, having conformed to their piles. The coat that Billy Pilgrim got had been crumpled and frozen in such a way, and was so small that it appeared to not be a coat, but a sort of large black 3-cornered hat. There were gummy stains on it, too, like crankcase drainings or old strawberry jam. There seemed to be a dead, furry animal frozen to it. The animal was, in fact, the coat's fur collar. Billy glanced dully at the coats of his neighbors. Their coats all had brass buttons or tinsel or piping or numbers or stripes or eagles or moons or stars dangling from them. They were soldiers' coats. Billy was the only one who had a coat from a dead civilian. So it goes. And Billy and the rest were encouraged to shuffle around their dinky train and into the prison camp. There wasn't anything warm or lively to attract them, merely long, low, narrow sheds by the thousands, with no lights inside. Somewhere a dog barked. With the help of fear and echoes and winter silences, that dog had a voice like a big bronze gong. Billy and the rest were wooed through gate after gate, and Billy saw his first Russian. The man was all alone in the night. A rag bag with a round, flat face that glowed like a radium dial. Billy passed within a yard of him. There was barbed wire between them. The Russian did not wave or speak, but he looked directly into Billy's soul with sweet hopefulness, as though Billy might have good news for him. News he might be too stupid to understand, but good news all the same. Billy blacked out as he walked through gate after gate. He came to in what he thought might Billy blacked out as he walked through gate after gate. He came to in what he thought might be a building on Tralfamadore. It was shrilly lit and lined with white tiles. It was on Earth, though. It was a delousing station through which all new prisoners had to pass. Billy did as he was told, took off his clothes. This was the first thing they told him to do on Tralfamadore, too. A German measured Billy's upper right arm with his thumb and forefinger. Asked a companion what sort of an army would send a weakling like that to the front. They looked at the other Americans' bodies now. Pointed out a lot more that were nearly as bad as Billy's. Nearly. One of the best bodies belonged to the oldest American by far, a high school teacher from Indianapolis. His name was Edgar Derby. He hadn't been in Billy's boxcar. He'd been in Roland Weary's car, had cradled Weary's head while he died. So it goes. Derby was 44 years old. He was so old he had a son who was a Marine in the Pacific Theater of War. Derby had pulled political wires to get into the Army at his age. The subject he had taught in Indianapolis was contemporary problems in Western civilization. He also coached the tennis team and took very good care of his body. Derby's son would survive the war. Derby wouldn't. That good body of his would be filled with holes by a firing squad in Dresden in 68 days. So it goes. The worst American body wasn't Billy's. The worst body belonged to a car thief from Cicero, Illinois. His name was Paul Lazaro. He was tiny, and not only were his bones and teeth rotten, but his skin was disgusting. Lazaro was polka-dotted all over with dime-sized scars. He had had many plagues of boils. Lazaro, too, had been on Roland Weary's car and had given his word of honor to Weary that he would find some way to make Billy Pilgrim pay for Weary's death. He was looking around now, wondering which naked human being was Billy. The naked Americans took their places under many shower heads along a white tiled wall. There were no faucets they could control. They could only wait for whatever was coming. Their penises were shriveled and their balls were retracted. Reproduction was not the main business of the evening. And how lucky they were. They're like, all right, now reproduce. So they weren't about to get laid? What the fuck? Okay, I'm sorry. An unseen hand turned a master valve. Out of the shower heads gushed scalding rain. The rain was a blowtorch that did not warm. It jazzed and jangled Billy's skin without thawing the ice on the marrow of his long bones. Without thawing the ice. The Americans' clothes, meanwhile, were passing through poison gas. Body lice and bacteria and fleas were dying by the billions. So it goes. And Billy zoomed back in time to his infancy. He was a baby who had just been bathed by his mother. Now his mother wrapped him in a towel, carried him into a rosy room that was filled with sunshine. She unwrapped him, laid him on the tickling towel, powdered him between his legs, joked with him, patted his little jelly belly. Her palm on his little jelly belly made potching sounds. Billy gurgled and cooed. And then Billy was a middle-aged optometrist again, playing hacker's golf this time, on a blazing summer Sunday morning. Billy never went to church anymore. He was hacking with 3 other optometrists. Billy was on the green in 7 strokes, and it was his turn to putt. It was an 8-foot putt, and he made it. He bent over to take the ball out of the cup, and the sun went behind a cloud. Billy was momentarily dizzy. When he recovered, he wasn't on the golf course anymore. He was strapped to a yellow contour chair in a white chamber aboard a flying saucer, which was bound for Tralfamadore. "Where am I?" said Billy Pilgrim. "Trapped in another blob of amber, Mr. Pilgrim. We are where we have to be just now. 300 million miles from Earth, bound for a time warp which will get us to Tralfamadore in hours rather than centuries." How did I get here? It would take another Earthling to explain it to you. Earthlings are the great explainers, explaining why this event is structured as it is, telling how other events may be achieved or avoided. I am a Tralfamadorian, seeing all time as you might see a stretch of the Rocky Mountains. All time is all time. It does not change. It does not lend itself to warnings or explanations. It simply is. Take it moment by moment, and you will find that we are all, as I've said before, bugs in amber. "You sound to me as though you don't believe in free will," said Billy Pilgrim. "If I hadn't spent so much time studying Earthlings," said the Tralfamadorian, "I wouldn't have any idea what was meant by free will. I've visited 31 inhabited planets in the universe, and I've studied reports on 100 more. Only on Earth is there any talk of free will." End of chapter 4. I just want to read the first paragraph of chapter 5. Billy Pilgrim says that the universe does not look like a lot of bright little dots to the creatures from Tralfamadore. The creatures from Tralfamadore can see where each star has been and where it is going, so that the heavens are filled with rarefied, luminous spaghetti. And Tralfamadorians don't see human beings as 2-legged creatures, either. They see them as great millipedes, with babies' legs at one end and old people's legs at another, says Billy Pilgrim. luminous spaghetti. And you're all a bunch of fucking millipedes. The end. Okay, but we'll read chapter 5 next Monday. Thank you for listening. It means a lot to me. And I'll just do my normal streams now. Back to your regularly scheduled programs. Good night. Thank you, everybody. Oh, sorry, I had the alerts muted. Anonymous! Thank you for $100. God bless you. Tralfamadorian's a little condescending, not gonna lie. I mean, you'll understand their impatience with our silly little lives. Or our silly, not our lives, but like, our silly little problems, they got no patience. It's so obvious.